The human princess refused evacuation. Her decision changed everything. The Tharkal had come not to negotiate, but to conquer. Cities that had once been proud monuments to human achievement now trembled under the threat of annihilation. Explosions from the outer colonies echoed in the distance, reminding the citizens that time was running out. Panic filled the air, thick and suffocating, as the evacuation ships prepared to flee the planet. In the midst of the chaos, Princess Alara walked through the crowded streets of the capital city. Her silver cloak fluttered behind her as she moved with calm determination, ignoring the frantic cries of those around her. Children clung to their parents, their faces pale and wide-eyed. Soldiers barked orders that sounded like meaningless noise to the terrified civilians. Machines whirred, shuttles prepared for takeoff, and the smell of ozone and fear mixed into a bitter haze. Alara's advisors ran to keep pace, their faces strained with worry. "Your Highness, you cannot stay. The fleet is too powerful." "You must evacuate immediately," one of them pleaded. Alara paused and looked at him, her eyes calm but fiery. "And leave our people behind," she said, her voice, steady and clear, cut through the panic like a blade. "I will not run. Humanity does not abandon its home, not now." "Not ever." Her words caused a ripple of murmurs among the crowd. Some stared at her in disbelief, unable to understand why a princess would refuse safety. Others looked at her with newfound hope, seeing in her courage a reflection of the strength they had long forgotten. The evacuation ships hummed with activity, but Alara walked past them, heading toward the central command center. Inside, screens displayed the alien fleet, each ship a blackened monolith, massive and silent. The Tharkal moved in perfect formation, calculating, precise, and merciless. But Alara's mind worked differently. She saw patterns not in the alien formations, but in their thinking, in the way they relied on predictability. Humanity thrived on unpredictability, improvisation, and emotion, things the Tharkal could not comprehend. "We have 3 hours before the first orbital bombardment begins," said Commander Ral, the head of planetary defense, his voice tight. "If we don't evacuate now, everything will be lost." Alara shook her head. "Evacuation is surrender, and surrender is not an option." She turned to the assembled council and military leaders. "I know the enemy is stronger than us in many ways, but we have something they do not. We have creativity, courage, and the will to fight. That is more powerful than any weapon. Prepare the defenses. Alert every colony. We fight and we survive." Some council members argued, but Alara's conviction left no room for debate. Slowly, the mood in the room shifted. Where fear had ruled, determination began to grow. Outside, civilians watched as Alara addressed the city over the public broadcast. Her voice echoed from every speaker, steady and commanding. "I am not leaving. We will face this together. Humanity has survived storms, wars, and the darkness of space. This is no different. Stand with me, fight with me, we will endure." The streets erupted into cheers. Fear remained, but now it was mixed with hope. Parents held their children tighter, soldiers straightened their backs, and engineers ran toward their stations with purpose. For the first time that day, people believed in the impossible. Alara moved through the city inspecting preparations. Scientists hurried to retrofit old mining drones into combat units, equipping them with makeshift weapons and armor. Engineers built barricades from salvaged materials, while citizens volunteered to help transport supplies. Each small act of defiance added to a growing sense of unity. She paused at the edge of a workshop, watching a group of teenagers work on a drone. "What are you doing?" she asked, curiosity shining in her eyes. "We're making it fly faster," one boy said nervously, glancing at her. "It's supposed to confuse the Tharkal sensors. If it works, we can slow down their attack." Alara smiled. "Exactly, that is the human advantage. Think fast, adapt faster. They may have technology, but we have imagination, and imagination can win wars." The boy's face lit up, and he returned to his work with renewed energy. Alara continued walking, knowing that inspiration was as crucial as weapons. Fear could paralyze a population, but hope, carefully nurtured, could turn ordinary citizens into heroes. By evening, the first wave of alien scouts arrived in orbit. The sky glowed with the reflection of their massive ships. Human anti-orbital defenses activated, firing pulses of energy that streaked into space. Explosions rippled across the black void as the drones, piloted by brave civilians and soldiers alike, harassed the alien vessels. Alara watched from the command center, analyzing every movement. "They are expecting us to panic," she said. "They will not anticipate human ingenuity, prepare the mining drones for swarm tactics, use the city lights to disrupt their targeting systems, move quickly. Adapt constantly." Her orders were precise, yet flexible, allowing the humans to improvise. The first alien attack wave descended, expecting an easy victory. They found instead a city alive with defiance. Lights flashed, machines darted unpredictably, and humans fought with determination that computers could not calculate. The Tharkal were confused. Their sensors, designed to predict patterns, struggled with the chaotic tactics. One of their ships misfired, striking another and causing a chain reaction. Smoke and sparks filled the sky as humans cheered in defiance, their morale bolstered by the first small victory. Alara allowed herself a brief smile, but she knew this was only the beginning. The Tharkal were ruthless and persistent. Each victory came at a cost, and the battle had only just begun. But her presence, her refusal to evacuate, had changed everything. Humanity had a leader who believed in them, and that belief was contagious. Night fell over Elysium Prime, and the alien fleet remained above, silent and waiting. The city's lights flickered as humans prepared for the next assault. Alara walked among them, touching hands, offering words of encouragement, reminding them of what they were fighting for. She paused at a plaza where children huddled with their families. "Do not be afraid," she said softly, crouching to their level. "We are strong and we are together. We will survive." A small girl looked up at her, eyes wide. "Even if they destroy everything." Alara smiled gently. "Even then, humans do not give up. We endure and we fight back. That is what makes us human." The girl nodded, a tiny spark of courage forming in her eyes. Around them, the city hummed with life, determination, and hope. Hours later, the first major assault began. Ships descended, energy beams slicing through the sky. Buildings shook, alarms screamed, and the air filled with the roar of engines and the cries of the frightened. But humanity did not crumble. Citizens manned barricades, pilots guided drones with precision, and engineers rerouted energy to defensive systems in ways the aliens could not predict. Alara remained in the command center, issuing orders with calm authority. "Do not hesitate. Do not retreat. Fight with everything you have. Use your mind, use your courage, use your heart. The Tharkal will learn that humans are not easy prey." Throughout the night, humans adapted, learned, and endured. The alien attacks became more erratic as their carefully calculated plans faltered against the unpredictable humans. Every small victory strengthened morale, and every failure taught lessons that made the next attack easier to counter. By dawn, the city was battered, but alive. Smoke rose from damaged streets, and fires burned in some districts, but humans still stood. Princess Alara emerged from the command center, her face tired but resolute. She looked at the city, seeing not just destruction but resilience. "Today we survived," she said quietly, almost to herself. Then louder for all to hear. "And tomorrow we fight again. We will show the galaxy that humanity does not flee, humanity does not surrender, humanity endures, and humanity triumphs." Her words carried across the city, across the planet, and even through the interference of alien communications. They became a promise, a declaration, and a spark that could not be extinguished. Humanity, led by a princess who refused to abandon her people, had begun to fight back, and the universe would never underestimate them again. For the first time, the citizens of Elysium Prime understood that the survival of their planet, their species, and their pride depended not on fleeing, but on standing firm. And in that moment, Princess Alara became more than a leader. She became a symbol, a beacon of hope, and the first step toward a legendary defiance that would echo through the stars. The war had begun, and humanity was ready. The sky above Elysium Prime glowed with fire and destruction. The Tharkal had returned with greater force, their massive ships cutting through the atmosphere like dark, living shadows. The first assault had tested humanity's defenses, but now the aliens had learned, and they were more dangerous than ever. Princess Alara stood in the command center, her hands resting on the edge of a large holographic table. The screen above displayed the alien fleet in intricate detail, every vessel marked and tracked. Engineers and military officers scurried around her, issuing orders, analyzing data, and preparing for the inevitable onslaught. "We expected this," Alara said quietly, almost to herself. Then louder, addressing the room, "They think they understand us. They think we fight blindly, but humans are not machines. We adapt, we improvise, that is our strength." Commander Ral, standing beside her, frowned. "Your Highness, they have doubled their numbers. Our defenses might not hold." Alara shook her head. "Then we will not defend passively. We strike. We create chaos in their formations. They rely on order, and we will give them none." She tapped a few commands into the holographic table, bringing up several old mining drones repurposed for combat. Engineers had fitted them with high-powered thrusters, makeshift shields, and improvised weapons. Alara had personally overseen their design, knowing that even small human inventions could have enormous impact against the predictable alien technology. "These drones," she said, pointing to the display, "will not fight like soldiers. They will think, move, and react unpredictably. They will confuse the enemy sensors and break their formation. The Tharkal cannot anticipate what we do not plan. That is our advantage." Outside, civilians and soldiers prepared for the counterattack. Engineers ran along the streets, wiring city lights to create illusions, to blind alien targeting systems. Children carried supplies, learning from their elders that every small effort mattered. Even the city pets, guided by automated systems, assisted in reconnaissance and alert networks. Humanity was everywhere, small but unstoppable. As the first wave of alien ships entered the atmosphere, humans watched from defensive positions across the planet. Beams of energy shot from the ships, striking buildings, roads, and defensive towers. Explosions shook the ground, sending plumes of smoke into the sky. Fear gripped the hearts of many, but Alara's presence steadied them. "Do not focus on the fear," she instructed over communications. "Focus on what you can control. Aim, move, adapt. Every victory, no matter how small, matters." The drones launched, swarming around the alien vessels in patterns that seemed chaotic, but were carefully orchestrated by human ingenuity. They darted, twisted, and changed direction unpredictably. Alien sensors failed to track them accurately, resulting in misfires and collisions among their own fleet. Soldiers on the ground used the chaos to their advantage, striking alien landing crafts and disabling weapon pods. Engineers reconfigured city defense grids in real time, creating energy pulses that interfered with alien targeting systems. Each human act, whether small or large, combined into a force that the Tharkal had never encountered before. High above the battlefield, Alara directed the operations personally. She communicated directly with drone pilots and squad leaders, offering advice, adjustments, and encouragement. Her presence was everywhere, commanding, inspiring, and guiding. The aliens responded with brutal precision, but they struggled to predict human behavior. A Tharkal commander, observing the chaos, clenched his clawed hands. "They are not like other species," he hissed. "They do not follow patterns, they do not fear, they adapt, One of their ships was suddenly disabled by a swarm of drones, sending it crashing into another. The ripple effect caused multiple ships to collide. Explosions lit the sky like a violent constellation, and for the first time, humans cheered at the sight of destruction falling upon the enemy. Alara's face, illuminated by the glow of the holographic displays, showed no arrogance, only determination. "This is only the beginning," she said. "We must continue. Every move we make teaches them that humans are unpredictable, that we are not to be underestimated." Her words spread through the planetary communication network, reaching every citizen, soldier, and volunteer. Radio transmissions, public broadcasts, and even automated alerts carried her message. Do not retreat. Fight. Adapt. Survive. Meanwhile, on the ground, squads of human soldiers executed daring maneuvers inspired by the princess herself. They used the city as a labyrinth, guiding alien ships into traps and ambushes. Civilians contributed in every way they could, moving supplies, guiding drones, and creating diversions. The line between soldier and citizen blurred as humanity became a single, united force. Alara paused, her attention drawn to a cluster of alien dropships attempting a landing near a residential district. She tapped into the city grid, activating a network of energy pulses and decoy lights. The dropships wavered, their sensors confused, and several collided midair. Human pilots seized the opportunity, attacking with precision strikes. From above, the battle looked like a dance, chaotic yet perfectly synchronized. Every human action, small or large, added to the growing sense of unpredictability. The Tharkal were powerful, but they were rigid. Humans were fluid, and that fluidity born from creativity, emotion, and improvisation was their greatest weapon. As the first day of battle drew to a close, reports came in from the outer colonies. Some areas had suffered heavy damage, but survivors were organizing, repairing, and preparing for the next wave. Scientists and engineers worked tirelessly, developing new weapons and tactics on the fly. Children helped where they could, learning courage and resilience in the face of unimaginable danger. Alara moved through the command center, checking on every team. "Do not underestimate the value of every contribution," she said. "A single idea, a single action can change the course of this battle. Trust yourselves, trust each other." Her words were not empty. In one sector, a team of engineers had rigged an old cargo transport with an EMP device. The device, guided by improvisation and intuition, successfully disabled a cluster of alien ships, causing panic and confusion in the fleet. Another group had repurposed city lights to create false targets, forcing the enemy to waste ammunition and energy. The aliens, frustrated and disoriented, began to retreat from some sectors, only to be met with new human tactics elsewhere. Every victory, no matter how small, strengthened morale. Humanity was learning to fight as one organism, each individual contributing to a collective intelligence that the Tharkal could not predict or control. Alara watched it all unfold, her mind already planning the next moves. She knew the battle would be long and costly, but she also knew that humanity had the one thing the aliens could never replicate: spirit. Fear could be used against humans, but hope, courage, and creativity turned fear into fuel. Night fell again, and the planet was scarred with fire and smoke. Yet the lights of human activity shone brightly, defying the darkness. Civilians and soldiers alike took moments to rest, but only briefly. The battle had taught them resilience, and they knew that every hour of preparation mattered. Alara stood on the balcony of the command center, overlooking the city. Fires burned in some districts, drones buzzed in the sky, and soldiers patrolled the streets. The princess felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders, but she also felt pride. Humanity was alive, not just surviving, but fighting back with ingenuity, courage, and determination. A young soldier approached, bowing slightly. "Your Highness, the people are asking, how do we keep this up? The aliens are stronger, faster, and more numerous." Alara placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Strength is not only in numbers or weapons. Strength is in creativity, courage, and the will to survive. Look around you. Humans can do more than machines, more than technology, more than aliens. We adapt, we improvise, we endure. That is what makes us strong." The soldier nodded, inspired. Around the city, similar conversations took place. Parents encouraged children, soldiers encouraged civilians, and everyone encouraged each other. The human spirit had become a weapon more powerful than any laser or missile. As dawn approached, a new plan was underway. Alara had identified a weak point in the alien fleet's formation, a chance to strike decisively. She gathered a small team of pilots, engineers, and strategists to execute a daring counterattack. "This is our moment," she said. "We will show them that humans do not yield. Every move will be unpredictable, every attack will be precise, and every victory, no matter how small, is a step toward ultimate survival. Let's make history." The team nodded, eyes bright with determination. They knew the risk, but they also knew the reward, proving that humanity, under the leadership of Princess Alara, could defy the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. And so the humans of Elysium Prime prepared for the next battle, stronger, smarter, and more united than ever. The Tharkal had underestimated them once. They would not make the same mistake again. Princess Alara looked at the horizon, where alien ships still lingered in the sky. "We fight not because we must, but because we can. We fight because we are human." And that is a power they cannot understand, a power they cannot overcome, and a power that will guide us through the darkness. The first step had been survival. The next step was victory. And humanity, led by a princess who refused to flee, was ready to take it. The sky above Elysium Prime was no longer just a battlefield. It was a chessboard. Alien ships hovered like dark predators, their formations shifting and changing with every movement. Yet the humans below were no longer reacting, they were initiating. The first battles had taught them, and under Princess Alara's guidance, they were evolving. Alara stood on the balcony of the command center, her eyes scanning the horizon. Her silver cloak caught the early light of dawn, shimmering against the smoky backdrop of the city. The first wave of night attacks had left buildings in ruins, streets cracked, and fires smoldering, but the human spirit had only grown stronger. Civilians and soldiers alike had learned to act decisively, and Alara knew the time had come to take the fight to the enemy. "Prepare the shuttle fleet," she ordered. "We will hit their supply lines, disrupt their command, force them to react to us, not the other way around." Commander Rao, though still concerned, nodded. "It's risky, Your Highness. Their ships are faster, stronger, and heavily armed." Alara's eyes were calm and focused. "Risk is part of survival. They expect caution. We will give them audacity. That is what will turn the tide." In the hangars, engineers hurried to retrofit shuttles with advanced modifications. EMP devices, makeshift armor, and reprogrammed targeting systems transformed ordinary crafts into lethal weapons. Pilots checked and rechecked their ships, knowing that their courage and skill could outmatch even the superior technology of the Tharkal. Alara personally walked among them, offering encouragement and precise advice. "Do not fly as they expect," she said to a young pilot. "Predict their patterns, then break them. Use the environment. Use your mind. Remember, humans survive because we can think beyond what any machine can." The pilots nodded, determination hardening in their eyes. Alara's presence alone was inspiring. Her refusal to evacuate, her insistence on fighting, had turned fear into energy, doubt into courage. Humanity had begun to realize that their strength lay not only in weapons, but in their unity, creativity, and will to survive. As the shuttle fleet launched, Alara remained in the command center, monitoring their progress. The first target was a cluster of alien supply ships orbiting above a mining colony. If destroyed, these ships would cripple the Tharkal's ability to reinforce their troops on the surface. The shuttles darted through space, small and agile, weaving between the massive alien vessels. The humans had adapted to the aliens' calculations, learning their patterns, then deliberately breaking them. Explosions rocked the fleet as EMP devices disabled shields and weapons. The alien commanders growled in frustration as human craft moved unpredictably, striking quickly before disappearing into the void. Back on the planet, civilians watched the battles through communications feeds. Children cheered, soldiers fired with renewed precision, and engineers quickly adapted to each new challenge. Humanity had become a living network of action and reaction, each individual contributing to a greater whole. Alara turned her attention to a secondary target, a group of alien command ships coordinating the assault. "If we can disrupt their leadership, the rest of their fleet will falter," she explained to her aides. "We need precision strikes, not brute force. Focus, adapt, and think faster than they do." A team of human pilots volunteered for the mission, knowing the risks. Alara personally gave them last-minute instructions, pointing out weaknesses in the alien formations, predicting their responses, and offering strategies that would maximize their chances of success. "Remember," she said, "they cannot anticipate imagination. They cannot predict heart. That is your weapon. Strike smart, strike bold, and survive together." The shuttle squad executed the maneuver with daring precision. Using decoys, misdirection, and clever coordination, they infiltrated the alien command group. EMP pulses disabled communication arrays, while small human drones targeted engine systems. The command ships faltered, giving human forces the upper hand in several sectors simultaneously. In the command center, Alara watched as the alien fleet began to splinter. Some ships retreated, confused and disorganized, while others were destroyed in concentrated human attacks. Civilians and soldiers cheered in the streets, their morale soaring. Humanity was no longer merely defending. It was asserting dominance through cunning, strategy, and adaptability. Yet the battle was not without cost. Reports of damaged buildings, injured civilians, and fallen soldiers reached the command center constantly. Alara did not ignore these losses. She moved through the city personally, comforting survivors, offering guidance to rescuers, and ensuring that every citizen knew their value. Her presence was a stabilizing force, reminding everyone that courage was not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. By midday, the tide of battle had shifted noticeably. Alien ships, once confident in their superiority, now struggled to regroup. Humans had exploited weaknesses, improvised solutions, and leveraged their unpredictability to gain the advantage. But Alara knew the war was far from over. The Tharkal were persistent, intelligent, and ruthless. They would adapt, and humans had to be ready to adapt faster. In a quiet moment, Alara surveyed the battlefield from a high vantage point. Smoke rose from several districts, but the city still stood. Streets were crowded with determined civilians, soldiers, and volunteers repairing defenses, moving supplies, and preparing for the next wave. Engineers worked tirelessly, devising new weapons, shields, and drones. The city was alive, a hive of ingenuity and resilience. Commander Ral approached, his expression still tense. "Your Highness, we have an opportunity. Their command ships are weakened, but their main fleet is still intact. If we strike now, we can force them to retreat from the planet entirely or suffer devastating losses." Alara nodded. "We strike, but carefully. Focus on strategy, not just power. The goal is not destruction for its own sake. It is survival, and proving that humanity cannot be intimidated." The second phase of the counterattack began. Humans targeted alien landing zones, supply routes, and critical infrastructure. Every strike was calculated, every movement deliberate. Civilian pilots, soldiers, and engineers worked together seamlessly, adapting to every alien response. Improvised tactics, such as using environmental hazards to trap enemy ships and reprogramming captured drones, created confusion and panic among the aliens. Alara herself prepared to lead a daring maneuver. She would pilot a modified shuttle into the heart of the alien fleet, planting EMP devices to disable several major ships simultaneously. It was a dangerous mission, but her presence would inspire those around her. She checked her suit, her ship, and the small team of elite pilots joining her. Every detail had been considered, every risk calculated, but courage, not fear, would guide them. The shuttle squad launched, cutting through the chaos of battle with precision. Alara's instincts and experience guided her, allowing her to anticipate alien movements and avoid deadly traps. EMP devices deployed perfectly, disabling multiple alien ships and creating openings for the human fleet. The aliens struggled to respond to the chaos, their formations falling apart. Back on the surface, humans cheered. The city erupted with renewed energy as soldiers advanced, civilians contributed, and engineers exploited the openings created by Alara's daring mission. Humanity had flipped the balance of power, proving that ingenuity, courage, and determination could overcome technological superiority. Alara returned to the command center, exhausted but triumphant. She debriefed with her team, analyzing the results and planning the next moves. Every action had consequences, every decision mattered, and humanity had proven capable of extraordinary feats under pressure. News of the counterattack spread quickly. Across the planet, humans celebrated the first decisive victories against the Tharkal. Stories of bravery, quick thinking, and selfless acts inspired others to continue fighting. Citizens repaired defenses, prepared for further assaults, and shared strategies with each other. Humanity was learning to fight as a single, united organism, with Alara at its heart. As evening fell, Alara stood once more on the balcony, looking out over the city. Fires still burned, but the lights of human activity glowed brighter than ever. Children played cautiously among safe zones, soldiers patrolled the streets, and engineers worked tirelessly. The city was scarred, but alive, and that alive spirit was stronger than any alien weapon. Alara's mind was already focused on the future. The battle had shown humanity's potential, but it had also revealed weaknesses that needed shoring up. Supplies had to be secured, defenses strengthened, and civilians prepared for the long conflict ahead. Every citizen, from child to elder, had a role to play, and Alara would ensure they were ready. A young soldier approached, carrying a report. "Your Highness, the Tharkal are regrouping. They've sustained significant losses, but they are not defeated. They will return stronger and more cautious." Alara nodded, her expression calm. "Then we will be ready. Every lesson we've learned, every tactic we've devised, every act of courage will be sharpened and improved. They cannot anticipate creativity. They cannot calculate courage. They cannot comprehend humanity's will to survive. And that is why we will win." Her words carried across the city, reaching every listener through public broadcasts and personal communications. Humanity had not only survived, they had proven themselves capable of triumph. Each person, from engineer to soldier, from child to elder, felt the truth in her words. They were part of something larger than themselves, something unstoppable, human ingenuity and spirit. The night passed with a tense quiet. Humans maintained vigilance, repairing defenses, monitoring alien movements, and preparing for the next assault. The Tharkal, disoriented and frustrated, did not dare to launch another large-scale attack. Humanity had shown that they could not be easily crushed. Alara stood silently, reflecting on the day's events. The sacrifices had been immense, the cost high, but the victories were worth every risk. She thought of the children she had comforted, the civilians who had fought bravely, and the soldiers who had given everything. Humanity was not just surviving, it was thriving in the face of adversity, proving that courage, ingenuity, and unity could overcome even the most powerful enemy. With dawn approaching once again, Alara issued a final order for the night. Rest where you can, but remain vigilant. We have shown them what humans can do, but the war is not over. We fight not only for survival, but to prove to the galaxy that humanity will never surrender. We adapt, we endure, we triumph. The humans of Elysium Prime, inspired and united, prepared for the next battle, ready to face whatever the Tharkal would throw at them. Princess Alara had turned the tide of hope, proving that even against overwhelming odds, humanity's will and ingenuity were unstoppable. The stage was set for the final confrontation, and humanity, led by a princess who refused to flee, would face it with courage, strategy, and the unbreakable spirit that defined their species. The alien fleet hung like a dark storm over Elysium Prime. Days of battle had left the city scarred, the streets cracked and smoldering, yet humanity was far from defeated. Civilians had learned to fight, engineers had adapted weapons, and soldiers moved with precision and courage. But now the Tharkal had gathered every strength they had left for a final assault. Their fleet, massive and imposing, moved as a single deadly force, intending to crush all resistance in one decisive strike. Princess Alara stood on the balcony of the command center, her eyes scanning the horizon. The fires of the previous battles still burned in the city, but so did hope. Humanity had survived countless attacks, turning chaos into strategy, fear into determination. Alara knew that this final battle would determine the fate of her people, and perhaps the fate of humanity itself. "Your Highness," Commander Ral said, approaching her side, "this is the moment they plan to end us. If we fail, there will be no second chance." Alara's eyes were steady, unwavering. "Failure is not an option," she said. "They think they can break us because we are fewer and weaker. They forget one thing: humans are unpredictable. We are not machines. We adapt. We endure. We fight not just to survive, but to prove that our spirit cannot be conquered." In the hangars, the final preparations were underway. Every shuttle, every drone, every human capable of wielding a weapon had been readied for the coming battle. Engineers double-checked EMP devices, shield generators, and weapon modifications. Civilians carried supplies to the front lines, guided pilots, and assisted soldiers in every way possible. Humanity was united like never before, and every individual understood the stakes. Alara moved among them, speaking to each team personally. "Remember," she said to a squad of young pilots, "courage alone is not enough. Think, adapt, and act. Use your mind, your instincts, and your heart. That is the human advantage. They cannot predict creativity or bravery." The young pilots nodded, their faces a mix of fear and determination. They had seen what humans were capable of, and now, under the guidance of a leader who refused to flee, they understood that victory was possible. Above the planet, the Tharkal fleet advanced, their ships cutting through the atmosphere with deadly precision. Energy beams flashed, striking defensive towers and city barricades. Explosions lit the sky as alien ships collided or were destroyed by human countermeasures. Yet Alara knew that while humanity had turned the tide in previous battles, this assault would be different. The aliens had learned, adapted, and were determined to end the resistance once and for all. "Focus on the patterns," Alara said over communications, addressing the pilots and ground forces simultaneously. "They rely on predictability. They calculate, they plan, and they assume we will react the same way each time. We will give them chaos. Every move, every strike, every tactic must be unexpected. That is how we win." The battle began in earnest. Drones and shuttles darted through space like swarms of bees, striking at supply lines, command ships, and landing crafts. Engineers had rigged city lights and energy grids to create false targets, drawing alien fire into empty streets and harmless zones. Soldiers on the ground used guerrilla tactics, striking where the enemy was weakest and disappearing before they could respond. Alara herself led a squadron of elite pilots in a daring maneuver. They weaved between enemy ships, deploying EMP devices that disabled entire clusters of the fleet. Explosions erupted in space, sending ships tumbling into each other, creating chaos that human forces exploited immediately. The Tharkal had expected a defensive battle. They were not prepared for an offensive that combined ingenuity, courage, and perfect coordination. Back on the planet, civilians worked alongside soldiers to reinforce key areas, evacuate the wounded, and repair damaged drones. Children, guided by adults, delivered messages and supplies, learning that courage could take many forms. Each individual, no matter how small, became a part of a greater whole, a living, breathing human force that the aliens could not understand or predict. The tide of battle began to shift decisively. Alien ships faltered as their formations broke, their command systems disrupted by human ingenuity. Pilots took advantage of the openings, striking with precision and determination. Every move was calculated, yet unpredictable, a combination the Tharkal had never faced. Alara's voice echoed through communication systems across the planet. Do not hesitate. Strike boldly, adapt constantly, and fight with everything you have. We are not merely defending. We are proving that humanity cannot be crushed, cannot be tamed, and cannot be defeated. The human forces pressed their advantage. Engineers improvised new weapons from salvaged alien technology, using their own intelligence against them. Soldiers devised tactics that drew enemy ships into traps, turning superior firepower into liability. Even the city itself became a weapon, with streets, buildings, and defenses coordinated as a single massive force. The Tharkal, for the first time, realized that victory was slipping from their grasp. Their calculations had failed, their predictions were wrong. Human adaptability, ingenuity, and courage had turned the battlefield into an unpredictable nightmare. Panic began to ripple through their ranks, and their leaders struggled to maintain order. Alara, sensing the moment, ordered a final decisive maneuver. We strike at the heart of their fleet, she said. The command ships must fall. Without leadership, the rest will retreat. We do this together. We do this for every human who refused to flee, who chose courage over fear. She led the attack personally, piloting a modified shuttle into the thick of the enemy formation. EMP devices were deployed with perfect timing, disabling key command ships. Explosions rippled across the fleet, and chaos spread like wildfire. Human pilots pressed their advantage, striking where the enemy was weakest and disappearing before they could respond. On the ground, soldiers and civilians watched as alien ships fell from the sky. Fires illuminated the city, reflecting the glow of victory and the cost of war. Cheers erupted as humanity realized the Tharkal were faltering, that they were no longer invincible. Every life, every effort, every act of courage had contributed to this moment. Alara's shuttle returned to the planet's surface, her face smudged with soot and sweat, but her eyes shining with determination. She stepped out, greeted by her team, and surveyed the battlefield. Alien ships were retreating, their fleet fractured and broken. Humanity had survived. Humanity had triumphed. The citizens of Elysium Prime poured into the streets, cheering, crying, and embracing one another. Soldiers returned from the battlefield, injured but alive, inspired by the courage of civilians and pilots alike. Engineers shared stories of their improvised victories, and children recounted their small acts of bravery. The city was alive with the energy of survival, unity, and triumph. Alara moved through the crowds, offering words of encouragement and gratitude. Today we have proven that humans are not easily defeated, she said. We have shown courage, ingenuity, and unity can overcome even the greatest odds. This victory is not mine alone. It belongs to every human who chose to fight, to adapt, and to endure. Civilians and soldiers alike celebrated their survival, but Alara knew the war had left scars. Buildings needed rebuilding, families needed care, and the threat of future attacks could not be ignored. Yet the spirit of humanity had been proven unbreakable. They had faced annihilation and had responded not with fear, but with courage and ingenuity. Across the planet, reports came in of other colonies inspired by the victory on Elysium Prime. Humans were no longer just survivors. They were symbols of hope and defiance. Stories of bravery spread quickly, reminding everyone in the galaxy that humanity refused to be crushed. Alara stood once more on the balcony, looking at the stars where the remnants of the Tharkal fleet fled. The sky was calm now, filled with smoke and the first light of dawn, but the planet below pulsed with life and determination. "Humanity has endured," she said quietly, almost to herself. Then louder so all could hear. "We survive not because we are the strongest, not because we are the fastest, but because we are human. We think, we adapt, we fight, and we endure. That is our power. That is our legacy." Her words carried across the city and beyond, reaching every citizen and soldier who had fought, survived, and contributed. They felt the truth in her voice, the promise of courage, and the reality of their own power. Humans had stood against an overwhelming enemy and had emerged victorious. The planet, scarred but alive, became a symbol. Humanity had proven that courage, ingenuity, and determination could overcome the mightiest of foes. Princess Alara, who had refused to evacuate, had inspired not just her people, but the entire species. Her decision had changed the course of history, showing that humans were not merely survivors. They were conquerors of challenges, masters of ingenuity, and bearers of hope. As the sun rose over Elysium Prime, the city glowed with life, rebuilding, and celebration. Fires of destruction still burned in some places, but the light of human spirit shone brighter. Children played, soldiers laughed, engineers worked, and citizens moved with purpose. Humanity had faced annihilation and had chosen courage. Alara stood on the balcony one last time, watching the planet she had fought to save. Her heart swelled with pride, not for herself, but for her people. Every act of bravery, every invention, every strategy had proven one thing: humans, united and courageous, could survive anything. The battle was over, but the legend had begun. Stories of the human princess who refused evacuation, who led her people against impossible odds, would be told across galaxies for generations. Humanity had shown that their greatest weapon was not technology, but spirit, not numbers, but will. Not fearlessness, but courage in the face of fear. Elysium Prime would rise again, stronger, smarter, and more united than ever. Humanity had survived the storm, and the universe would never forget that humans were a force to be reckoned with. The Tharkal had learned that unpredictability, ingenuity, and determination were powers they could never match. Princess Alara, standing amid the cheers and celebrations, smiled. Humanity had endured. Humanity had triumphed. Humanity had proven, once and for all, that the human spirit was unstoppable, and the galaxy would remember that lesson forever. The human princess refused evacuation. Her decision changed everything.